Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Halloween Rare Egg Machine that has just gone live in North America. So, the Halloween Rare Egg Machine is a seasonal event, which means it's going to come back every year, which means we can expect to a certain extent the cards to receive possible buffs in the future, which means that the higher rarity cards may in fact continue to become stronger over time, which in turn makes them possibly decent investments, so to speak. But unfortunately, like basically every other seasonal event, Halloween is an underwhelming affair to roll in. Yes, there are strong cards to actually acquire, but unfortunately they're all basically skewed up towards the top rarity in the 9 and 8 star bases, and in addition to that, with the exception of Nell and Amikazumi, and I guess Inahime because they're 7-star as well, you can monster exchange for these cards. Nell can technically be purchased with money because it's a background music card, but if you do monster exchange for Chakule or Halloween Cotton and you're like, oh, okay, I'm great, maybe that's all you actually need to do. Like for myself, I don't think I've actually rolled in Halloween outside of the freebie rolls we do acquire from time to time, and if they were featured in a seasonal Super Godfest. That's actually how I acquired basically most of my Halloween Cottons and basically all my Halloween cards when I really think about it. So my advice to you is not to actually roll in this event because the 6 and 5 star cards, like for the most part, are not going to bring you much value. The vast majority of 7 stars are kind of underwhelming, I feel, overall. And like you might as well just monster exchange because at least for the 8-star cards, it is much cheaper trade fodder. It is only 6-star Godfest exclusives instead of, 5, 7-star Godfest exclusives. But with that being said, I want to take a look at some of the more notable cards in this event because it is possible you do maybe roll them or maybe you just actually end up monster exchanging. So the first one I want to take a look at is the new Halloween Suo's green dark form. So they have 5 attribute awakenings, so monstrous amounts of personal damage, which in turn lets them, hit incredibly hard on their main and sub attribute, which has become a bit of an issue in this day and age. Amusingly enough, they don't have many other awakenings, so that you don't get like skill boost or time extends, skill bind resist, bind immunity. Well, I guess you could get that through super awakenings, but point of the matter is they're missing many awakenings, which in turn makes me believe that in the future they will receive, more awakenings at some point in time. For their active skill, they are on a 3-turn cooldown, which is great because you can easily over-inherit over top of them, which in turn, lets you have more flexibility. You need delay, haste, absorption at the beginning. You got an answer right there in Suo. Furthermore, it is an attack and RCV buff that lasts for 3 turns, so it is loopable. And that's great because if you can heal more, you can survive much more easily. Who doesn't like more attack damage? So a valuable rainbow-oriented card overall, but just be mindful of the fact that they're not bringing, like any other awakenings to the table aside from damage and a great looping, low cooldown active skill. Halloween Madu, I feel like their weapon assist in this form is something I still utilize, especially for my Daytona teams, because, that extra TPA is pretty cool. It's like a significant damage increase for the owning card. The L is great because sometimes you can't unlock the board. You get the 2 or it's really 4 enhanced Dark Orbs because it's OE plus. And you get a Team RCV. So like decent awakenings. The active skill is a 2 turns of 60% damage reduction and 3-turn delay. So this is great because there are often times at the beginning of a dungeon where you enter and you cannot delay every single spawn. Maybe a couple are delayable, a couple are not. So the shield lets you tank and survive the ones that are not delayable. The ones that get delayed, you can happily dance through. Point of the matter is that oftentimes we find ourselves needing to transform or leader swap or charge something up that's important, and delays and shields can help you bridge the gap. But is this worth monster exchanging for? I don't think it is. Like, there are other options out there for sure. Now we come to Halloween Chakule, who is definitely the star of the show. And in fact, in this rerun, she was actually only had 8 awakenings prior to this, but she gained a third 10 combo awakening just right there on the last awakening slot that wasn't filled. So an incredible damage buff because now she's, instead of 25 times personal damage, which was back then meaningful, it's now 125 times personal damage. So outrageously hard hitting on main and sub attribute, especially if you could change the color of the attribute to something else more helpful. But it's also the fact that she has 4 skill boosts. She can bring super blind resist. She has passive damage with the dark enhanced combos. And then it's her active skill on an 8-turn cooldown that lets you unlock the board and gives you 8 turns of 35% damage reduction. This is a looping shield, it's long lasting, it can let you tank and survive hits that you're normally not able to do so. And this actually is quite meaningful because in current endgame content, we tend to encounter spawns that are just too tanky to kill in a single turn. So you oftentimes have to like grind through them. And having 35% damage reduction on top of whatever your effective health is can possibly ensure you don't die. Like maybe like they have a big hit when they go below 50%. That's often the case. So Chakil can definitely help you out there. Her weighted stats are wonderfully high. She's just an incredibly well-rounded card. But the fun doesn't stop there because she gained a brand new evolution and it's Fire Water. So great for Prim. This is going to be one of the absolute best subs for your Prim teams potentially because they give you a 7x6 board when you enter the dungeon. And Prim teams need to have 7x6 because, you leader swap into position, then you have a larger board. So you got the right colors, you got a 7x6. She also has 10 combo awakenings. So again, monstrous personal damage. So that sub-attribute will be potentially double damage capping as well. So a quad cappable card. You have a cross awakening, which again is valuable for Prim teams because you think about it, you can match any 5 in any shape and you can clear sticky blinds. She comes with super jam resist and a super blind resist. So she's providing so much value overall. Blind, 100% blind, 100% jam resist, amazing personal damage, a cross awakening, a 3-turn cooldown, which can be easily inherited over for like haste, delay, shield, whatever you need to have. And then it's an active skill that gives you 1.5 times attack for both leaders, which will overwrite any existing debuff on those particular cards. Prim teams don't technically need that as much for the most part because, the active skill from Prim does provide an attack buff for the Prim themselves, but you get to overwrite any debuffs, along with the fact that you fully clear unmatchable orb statuses. So, depending on the type of dungeon you're playing in, this might be the only possible mechanic. Like, for MD2 and UN1, there's really no awakening binds unless something has gone terribly wrong, so you don't need to have a full cleric necessarily. Chakil can provide so much value right there by like just clearing those unmatchables on a regular basis while having immense damage. So Chakil is great in 2 forms. The dark form is more flexible in the sense that I feel like it would be utilized potentially quite often on like say even rainbow teams, because why not? Or even this one when you think about it, because if you just need unmatchable clear, maybe not. Point of the matter is Chakil is an amazingly strong sub at this point in time, and I would like their weapon assists are pretty cool, but I would honestly just stick with them in their sub forms because they can do so much for your team. And now we come to Halloween Nell, who is a background music card, which means you can purchase her for money. She does have 8 latent slots, which gives you much more flexibility. She can have triple 10 combo, and as I already mentioned, triple 10 combo is becoming kind of the new standard for big damage output, with a large attack stat and a matching sub-attribute that is to her main attribute. So meaningful personal damage on her sub-attribute, potentially huge depending on the type of team she's used on. And in addition to that, a huge amount of health. Like that's a pretty big health set when you think about it. But her active skill is a 4-turn cooldown, so again, easy to inherit over top of, and it gives you 1 turn of damage and attribute absorb cancellation. So generally speaking, you're going to need this type of active skill in virtually every single dungeon. Whether you need more than 1 turn will obviously depend on the dungeon itself you're playing, but oftentimes this may actually be enough absorption for whatever you're playing through. So she's solving those problems on a low cooldown, which also means she can inherit something meaningful over top to address other problems or concerns. I feel like she's just going to become a stellar mono dark sub as a general blanket statement moving forward. She is incredibly new, so it's hard to judge her value at this exact point in time, but big damage, meaningful active skill. Leader skill is technically a 7x6 board when you enter the dungeon, so if you are doing any leader swapping shenanigans, Nell can help you enable those overall. For her weapon assists, might as well take a look at them because she is brand new. You get the dark sub-attribute change, 2 team HPs and 2 enhanced dark orbs, and a 7-turn cooldown that gives you 2 turns of damage and attribute absorption cancellation. That's pretty incredible when you really think about it because, like I already mentioned, damage absorption and color absorption is something you're going to need to have. And for the most part, 2 turns tends to be enough for the vast majority of content. So on a blisteringly short 7-turn cooldown, this is kind of outrageous when I think about it. Like, I remember back in the day, long, long ago, when damage absorption first came out, it was such a long cooldown for even just 1 turn. And then they came out with like 2 turns and people were like, whoa, but the cooldowns were so much longer. And power creep. Basically, too long, didn't read, power creep. Her last weapon assist is a skill boost and 2 enhanced dark combo awakenings, along with that same 4-turn cooldown for 1-turn cancellation. I'm much more inclined to take the 7-turn cooldown for, 2 turns of cancellation with, I'd say, more helpful awakenings overall. For Halloween Cotton, now we come to the 8-star cards. Halloween Cotton still remains an incredibly strong Daytona sub. And one thing I love about Halloween Cotton is their super awakenings are not vital to necessarily the success of them, which in turn lets them be utilized quite efficiently in co-op mode. For myself, I still play like MD2 with my Daytona team with myself. And now with this Halloween Cotton buff, it should be even easier to ensure that all my Halloween Cottons quad cap. And that's a big deal because when you think about it, if you can deal 40 billion damage, you can overcome a lot of spawns you're not necessarily supposed to with your Daytona team. But point of the matter is, Halloween Cotton now has 8 TPAs because these TPA pluses are worth 2. So 8 TPAs, a 10 combo. Outrageously high damage output. And if you are playing in solo mode, you either get skill boost plus or any of the big super resists. So an incredibly helpful damage dealing card that also has a meaningful active skill. For 2 turns, you get bonus combos as well as Void, Damage, Void, and changing the whole board with an orb unlock to light, dark, and hard orbs. And 2 turns of Void, Void is absolutely necessary for Daytona teams. Prior to this rerun, it was only 1 turn, and it was still pretty good. But now it's 2 turns, which helps you overcome spawns that were just too tanky to kill in 1 turn. Now you don't need to have necessarily an army of Halloween Cottons. You still can, and it's still obviously going to be great, but you don't need to have them as badly as before because now you can solve 2 turns in a row compared to 1. So for the most part, Halloween Cotton is an incredibly powerful TPA-oriented card, and her weapon assist, if you are fortunate enough to get duplicates, is the same active skill with helpful awakenings of TPA, double team HP, and tape resist. Overall, an incredibly strong card that is has inexpensive trade fodder requirements. So if you do own Daytona, you love that playstyle, you don't have a Halloween Cotton, or maybe you only have 1, picking up a second or your first one could be a great boon to your overall monster box. For Halloween Elia, this is one of the other new cards currently available. They follow a similar damage offensive pattern to Halloween Cotton in the sense that they have 6 TPAs, a 10 combo awakening with the chance to get either more skill boosts or 2 more TPAs. But their active skill is quite interesting. It's a transforming active skill, so she still can double damage cap. But in the starting form, it changes the far left column to hearts, far right column to light, and then a single turn of haste. So not a bad active skill by any means. It helps you get transformed or charge up key active skills. And then once this active skill has reached its second stage, it's a 2-turn cooldown, which lets you inherit stuff on top of. Like, you can enter a dungeon with an active, like a weapon assist that does something meaningful on top of Elia. It's unlikely to overcharge because you could leave it at, say, 20-turn cooldown, because it doesn't matter if you skill them up or you don't skill them up, because after the active skill transforms, it's always going to be a 2-turn cooldown. So you could potentially inherit something meaningful over top. And then after they have the active skill transform, it will come up reasonably fast. But this 2-turn cooldown gives you, for a single turn, 1.5 times HP and changes the far right column to light orbs. So a bit of orb generation, which is always welcomed, but that extra 1.5 times HP is a pretty cool concept, because when you think about it, it's a way to basically add effectively, you're actually adding health. So you're adding health overall, which in turn lets you tank much larger hits, but it doesn't conflict or overwrite or compete with shielding active skills. So basically you could say, like, let's say I throw up a 75% damage reduction shield and then I use Elia on top of this. I've become unbelievably durable for that particular turn. So it's a pretty cool concept if you know you're going to be receiving a large amount of damage. Just be mindful of the fact that, I think you have to heal up. I don't know if you're full health and you use this active skill, you go back to full health. I'm going to assume you don't, and also I'm going to assume that you're probably injured by the time you're partway through a dungeon. So I don't know if, I feel like you just need to make sure you can heal up to take advantage of the bonus health that this active skill offers you. For their weapon assist, you get God type change, skill boost, and a VDP, and it gives you on a 15 turn cooldown, 3 turns delay, and a 30% gravity. Kind of an interesting combination. I don't think there's anything else quite like this, so maybe there might be a situational use for it. Hard to say. For their other weapon assists, you get a light sub-attribute changer, a single TPA, team HP, team RCV. So for your light TPA-oriented teams, this definitely can be a meaningful weapon assist potentially. And then the active skill gives you 2 turns of doubling your HP, so you just doubled your effective health. That's pretty cool overall, and again, it stacks with damage reduction. And then you change all orbs to light and hard orbs, so you're most likely going to actually, heal up after you use this active skill. She is new. I think it's pretty cool. Is it worth acquiring? It's hard to say. I think it's possibly a bit more situational overall. For Halloween Sonya Grand, she's never really become relevant. Like, she kind of pokes her head up once in a while saying, I'm kind of cool, but she's kind of all over the place from an Awakenings point of view. It's all over the place. She does a bit of everything. The active skill gives you orb movement time, an attack buff for the Oni monster, attack buff for dragon type cards. Unlock the board and change it to all 5 colors and hearts. It's okay. It's a 6 turn cooldown with skill charge, but it's nothing special in this day and age. She could hit reasonably hard against god type spawns, but maybe if I'm desperate for movement time buffs, maybe I might include her. It's hard to say. I don't know, I've had a Halloween Sonya Grand forever. I've never really used her is the thing. For her weapon assist, she has skill boost and enhanced orbs of every kind. I guess that's kind of cool when you really think about it, but whoops, wrong way. Alrighty, now we come to Verdandi, and Verdandi, I feel again, is a card that, just never has much usage. These attack while above 80% or 50%, they do add damage, but it's hard to juggle your HP, and even then, it's inconsistent. The active skill just gives you damage reduction and a board change and full heal. Maybe that could be useful once in a while, but I feel like dark is a reasonably oversaturated color in terms of great choices overall, that Verdandi just doesn't quite compete against other choices, I feel, for the most part. And then her weapon assist, I guess it could be cool. You got 4 enhanced wood orbs and 4 enhanced dark orbs. That's a tremendous amount of orb enhancement for teams that, utilize those colors or can at least convert those colors into something helpful. And then again, it's that same active skill, but for the most part, I've had a Halloween Verdandi. I don't think I've ever used her once yet. Halloween Inahime, I'm still a big fan of their weapon assist. Maybe I'm overvaluing it, but I think it is still quite good. It's still something I use on a regular basis, so at least in my head, that's an indication that something is good. And the weapon assist gives you a skill boost, an L Awakening, 2 enhanced fire orbs, 1 second of orb movement time. So a pretty nice myriad of awakenings. A single L is almost always desirable on a given team. And the fact that it's coming along with a useful active skill and other helpful awakenings is great. This active skill gives you on a 13 turn cooldown a 3 turn 50% damage reduction, 3 turn attack buff, and 3 turn delay. So, like I mentioned earlier, being able to delay a spawn is great, but sometimes a multi-spawn floor can't be fully delayed. Every spawn can't be delayed. So being able to delay some of them and having damage reduction can be a great deal overall, because you can, again, tank stuff, you can stall up for active skills, stall for transforming, leader swapping, whatever it may be. I think this is quite a powerful weapon assist, and the fact that it comes with that 1L does give it a bit more flexibility. Their other weapon assist gives you Bind Immunity, Cloud Resist, and then 4 enhanced fire orbs and a team RCV. So obviously a great boon to those mono fire teams. You get 4 turns of 50% damage reductions and 2 turns of damage absorption cancellation. So not a bad Fujin style active skill to overcome damage absorption. Again, I think these weapon assists are pretty good overall, but you can I guess buy this card directly as they are in Orb Skin. Next is Halloween Omega. I didn't find them that exciting in their forms. I think their weapon assist is maybe a bit more interesting, but at the same time, it's not what we need at this point in time. We want looping attack buffs. This is not a looping attack buff. It's never going to be a looping attack buff. It's just not that exciting overall, unfortunately. Halloween Weld's Weapon Assist, I think this could be great if, Royal Oak is still your jam, or actually any, if you want to use, Natsuro and Ultraman Z Alpha Edge, because Natsuro and Royal Oaks need to become Bind Immune. You get Bind Immune, triple Rose, which they both will want, and double Team RCVs, which every team can... Healing more is always a good thing. The active skill is probably not something that you're necessarily going to want to overcharge, but it makes a full board of Water Orbs after unlocking and a big attack buff, so I guess that's kind of cool. Maybe, maybe not. Hard to say. Point of the matter is, I think it's a nice weapon assist for mono water teams just to slap on your bind vulnerable cards. Halloween Blackbird is a transforming card of only one skill boost, and it doesn't actually give haste or delays, so it's going to be challenging to bring along. Once they're transformed, they have okay personal damage. They give you on a 2-turn cooldown an attack buff for the Blackbeard himself, and then 2 turns of attribute absorption cancellation. Maybe if you're playing in a dungeon that has lots and lots and lots of attribute absorption on a regular basis, basically every single floor perhaps, Blackbeard may be something meaningful to bring. But I feel like it's a little awkward to make it work. The leader skill, it does show 16 times effective health, which is a great amount. It's it's 16 times health is almost always going to be a great number for the most part, but they need 2 or more water combos. They don't make water orbs. You're better off just playing like Royal Oak, who could at least, make those water orbs. Halloween Sonia, I just wanted to just pull her up to remind people that, if you remember back in the day for ranking dungeons where bicolor with 2 turns of haste to create a weird system was a thing, Halloween Sonias and Christmas Sonias was that. Yeah, that doesn't really apply anymore, but it was kind of cool, long time ago. Weapon assist, yeah. Halloween Nene, I think their weapon assist is not bad at all. 2 rows, but 2 combo orbs. 2 combo orbs is not exactly something we see on a regular basis, so that alone is reasonably unique. It gives you 1 turn of bonus combos, 1 turn of 10 times attack for the team leader, unlocks the board and changes it to Water, Dark, and Hearts. Probably not something you want to overcharge. You're mostly just going to want to utilize it for the actual awakenings. For Halloween Rule, if there is a TPA-oriented team that is darker wood, Rule can be a meaningful card, but what makes them exciting more so is they have 6 TPAs, of course, which is great, but they have an active skill on a 3-turn cooldown, so easy to inherit over top of. It makes 3 wood and dark orbs, so hopefully your team uses those colors, but it also clears all awoken skill binds. And this is great because any TPA-oriented team does not have to rely on unmatchable clearing active skills, assuming, not every color became unmatchable, because you can use the unmatchable latent, and because you have 6 TPAs of Rule, you're going to clear 6 turns of unmatchable status per wood or dark TPA. That's a pretty big deal. So Rule can function as an incredibly low cooldown cleric that does hit hard on TPA-oriented teams. In their other form, it's just too long of a cooldown. It's not something that I really would want to pursue. For the weapon assist, it could be cool, again, if you use wood or dark TPA teams, but I feel like their base form is probably where they'll have the most value to function as a pretty nice cleric that can take unmatchable latent. Halloween Zerog, I have a tough time trying to find a great use for this card. I guess in theory on a 4-turn cooldown you are making, a row of dark orbs and a row of wood orbs, and you lock orbs. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't know, I've never found a use for him. Weapon assist, cross 3 enhanced dark orbs, 2 team HPs, an active skill. It's kind of awkward, and maybe just don't let it overcharge. It's just not that greatest. You could argue that maybe it's a swipe-ish kind of style leader, but not really. You need to hit exactly 7 combos, and you need to leave 5 or fewer orbs. It's kind of like Amun, but easier, but it's not necessary. Halloween Bastet still has utility overall. They can have 777 with a 10 combo or 4 skill boosts instead of the 10 combo, and an active skill that gives you orb movement time, RCV, and 2 times attack for herself. It's an orb skin. You could purchase it. It has a low base cooldown to inherit something over top of. I feel like there have become many more options for a universal, relatively universal buffer. It's not as good as it used to be, I feel, for the most part. Halloween Durga has like a leader skill that looks cool in theory, but the fact that you have to be above 50% off is a little bit awkward overall. Yes, their active skill does give you damage reduction. It does give you auto healing, so your effective health could be higher. It is potentially loopable of dual Durgas, but I honestly don't think it's really worth the amount of effort compared to all the other much more powerful and valuable rainbow cards out there. Maybe you can make the argument that you could bring them as a sub if you want a active skill that gives you some damage reduction, some auto healing, and the ability to spawn all 5 colors and hearts. Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. Her weapon assist is bind immunity and 80% poison resist with a 3 attribute awakening. So that's actually a pretty strong weapon assist. You protect them from binds, 80% poison resist, and personal damage for the owning card on your rainbow-based team. So not a bad weapon assist overall by any means. I'm much more excited for the weapon compared to the base form. And then finally, we come to Halloween Ama Kazumi, and they are one of the other new cards. In their base form, they have 3 skill boosts and a 2-turn haste. So 5 effective skill boosts. That is nice. And the haste is great for those multi-step transforming cards especially. Once they transform, it's triple 10 combo. And on a transforming card, that is usually completely overkill and unnecessary. But with the advent of super gravity dungeons, it's challenging to hit damage cap on cards that don't have immense personal damage. And Amakazumi will hit meaningful personal damage on their main attribute and possibly on their sub attribute as well. Furthermore, their active skill is now a 2-turn cooldown, so remember those tricks I told you before of inheriting something useful over top, because after they transform, it's a 2-turn cooldown, and then maybe that other weapon assist comes in handy. But point of the matter is 2-turn cooldown that unlocks the board while also changing wood and light orbs to dark. So a very easy way to flood your board with dark orbs to ensure you can match multiple different dark combos or blobs or whatever type of pattern your team actually needs to utilize. So I think, again, another powerful card for mono dark teams, but again, there's so many strong mono dark options out there. And then finally for their weapon assist, it's a skill boost enhanced heart orb, so boosting the healing output potentially, and cloud resist, along with a 3 turns of haste on an 18-turn cooldown, unlocks the board, makes 15 hearts and dark orbs total. So not a bad weapon. It's decently strong weapon assist overall when you think about it. It's essentially 4 effective skill boosts with bonus healing and cloud resist. So pretty powerful aspect overall, especially if you can utilize it at the beginning of a dungeon. A drawback of Amakazumi is that it is a 7-star card. It is not an orb skin, so you'd actually have to dig deep into this rare machine to roll them, which is not something I truly advise. Maybe you'll get lucky on your free roll. But with that being said, let me know what you think about this Halloween event in the comments down below. Do you think it is actually worth rolling in? Did you roll in it? Were you lucky? Or are you just monster exchanging and getting out? And if you did monster exchange, let me know who you actually acquired. Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.